Hi everyone, it's me again, and it's 2:31 a.m. as you can see at the top of the screen, and it came to me to want to discuss this particular Bible scripture here. And though I am not a fan of the Bible per se, but I am also a fan of not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And there is something in everything out here as far as literature, scriptures, ancient prophecies and whatsoever that you can get information from. And if you have the light of truth within yourself, besides a lot of research and reading over time, but the research and reading is fine, but you also need the discernment of divine information within yourself, and to be connected with the universe and the source in order to be able to make sense of the things you read, to get the truth out of all of it. If there happens to be truth in it, you will identify it just by having the light of truth within yourself. So I'm saying this to say, well, first let me do something with this so that it won't go off. I want to turn the display on a longer time so that it'll stay on while I'm reading it. Okay. So this is about Jesus sending demons into pigs. Now mind you, the Bible is not a historical book. And so if you look at it historically, for all intents and purposes, most likely, it may steer you in the wrong direction. But if you look at this book as a book of astrology, spells, as well as a book of tales, how do they put it? Cautionary tales of how if you do certain things, the outcomes of what those things may be according to your works, whether they be positive or negative. So keeping this in mind, I want to get down to the true meaning behind what this is saying, but I have to read it to you first, and then I will give you the explanation as to the esoteric or the deeper meaning of what this represents. So it says, Jesus sends demons into pigs. This is Matthew 8, verses 28 through 34 of New American Standard Bible. Verse 28, and when he came to the other side into the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men confronted him as they were coming out of the tombs. They were so extremely violent that no one could pass by that way, and they cried out saying, "What business do you have with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? Now there was a herd of many pigs feeding at a distance from them. And the demons begged him, saying, if you are going to cast us out, send us into the herd of pigs. And he said to them, go. And they came out and went into the pigs. And behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters. And the herdsmen ran away and went to the city and reported everything, including what had happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. So I guess they preferred the demons to Jesus, huh? That's what it seems like. And that's what I'm saying. If you take this as a historical thing, that you might get thrown off, because if you ever were to look to see if something like this really happened, if there was a Jesus and this event really happening, you may not ever really truly find a historical proof of this being the case. But if you apply it as to life situations and apply it to the time that you're living in, because we're always in the present, then I would pretty much figure that you could look at it and be like, you know what, yeah, because I've seen situations like this, that, or the other, where people did this and that, and because they did this and that, either the results were positive or negative, and the consequences of what those particular things are things that perhaps paralleled something they read, like a myth or whatever, and then it parallels something to what we would say real life or present life, whether it be in the person's personal life or around them. And so, to me, it seems like this reflects our time, because you see a lot of negative people in our time, and it seems to me they prefer negativity to positivity. They prefer to hear lies and falsehoods and go along with deception before they'll go along with what is positive or what we would deem righteous or would be the more positive and in the best way to go in a situation. You notice the world around you, and perhaps even in your own environment, people tend to lean more towards participating in negativity than positivity. And so I can relate this here about these people seeing or hearing about Jesus being there and what he did to the demon-possessed men, getting these bad spirits out of them. And so instead of them being like, oh wow, that's a great thing, you helped them to get rid of this wickedness out of them, they wanted him to go. You know, I suppose they would have preferred the demon-possessed men being there than Jesus. And yeah, I can relate to that. People preferring negativity over positivity. You know, and it seems like more people are choosing what we would call the devil than they are who we would consider to be God. So, going on with why I'm going into this, I would like to break this down as to who Jesus represents in the story, who these demon-possessed men as well as the pigs that the demons went into, what all of this represents from what comes to me from my training, my knowledge, research, and studies, as well as my intuitive and spiritual knowledge. So I took some notes earlier, and let me see, let me get some light on them. Here, I wrote down the pigs represent artificial, genetically spliced hybrid beings, because the pig is not a natural animal, first and foremost. And you can do studies on this on your own. Maybe look up some YouTube videos by people who study esotericism or spirituality and whatsoever. And from my studies and from people that came before me in knowledge of these particular things, it came to my attention that the pig is not a natural animal. It is a gene-spliced animal made from different types of other animals put together. And this may be one of the reasons why it's thought of even in the Bible as it's an animal that it has been suggested through God or God's people. Like, for instance, they say the Jews don't eat pork because it's against the laws of God. Those Muslims, people in Islam, don't eat pork for the same reasons, because it's not a clean animal. And once again, the reason being is because it's not even a natural animal. It's artificial, it's genetically spliced, and it's made together by the genes of several different animals, making it a hybrid, not even a mutant, which would be something that is still something of nature. It's just like something in nature that evolved or grew into something else. But a hybrid is something totally different. It's something that's not originally in nature. And I would suspect that's why people get sick a lot when they eat pork. And pork is one of those meats that you will find a lot of worms in as well. As clean as they are trying to make people believe pork is, there may be some, and I'm not like, I'm a vegetarian or between vegetarian and pescatarian. I will eat seafood. There was a time I was only a vegetarian and I wouldn't even eat seafood, but as a spiritual being, I have learned that it is times that you just have to adapt in this world, because you may not always be able to do certain things. And I've learned for survival, you may have to learn to adapt sometimes. You know what I'm saying? You have to do what you have to do. You just have to be on your spiritual game, or business rather. I don't even want to refer to it as a game. It's business. And, raise yourself up as much as you can, mentally and spiritually, as one with the source. And then if a time ever comes where you have to, adapt to certain situations and environments, you'll be able to do so knowing that you have the protection of your ancestors and spiritual guides in the spirit realm, directed by source. that can help you to purify and cleanse yourself as you may have to adapt to situations. So I've learned that nothing is always 100 here. Sometimes you may have to learn to adapt. And even if it came down to eating some pork, if that's what you had to do, you know, you have to learn the methods of trying to make it as clean as possible if you can. But the most of all, you have to raise up your energy, your spiritual energy. So if you may have to resort to doing such things, you can do so with the confidence that your body will be able to break down whatever may not be of the highest makeup within whatever it is you may have to digest. And your body can burn it away quickly so it won't stay in your body as long. As compared to if you didn't do any spiritual practices or do what you can to raise up the heat and vibrations within your body to break these things down and destroy them, so they at least they won't stay in you long enough to cause too much damage or problems. But for the most part, I'm with being a vegetarian or even a vegan. If you want to go that route, I feel that those are the best options for nutrition of the body, spirit, and soul. But like I said, you also have to learn to adapt to this realm because you never know what may come up. And so that's why you have to always stay on your A business. I don't want to say game because it's not a game. You want to stay on top of your business, you know, because a lot of things be going on here. And you know, like I was speaking about, comparing, like when they wanted to drive, they wanted Jesus to leave, but after they heard about what happened, I feel like they would have preferred the violent demon-possessed men there than Jesus after what he had done. He called himself trying to help these men and help the people in the environment, and they ran him out. And there's a lot of that going on today, that kind of mentality and behavior in the society. So, you know, people do hateful and unclean and unrighteous things. People even try to put you in a position to try to lower you, you know, and bring you down. So you have to be able to be adaptable and adjustable to all situations. And that's why you need to focus on your spirituality as much as you possibly can, just in case situations, you know, turn. But we always, like they say, pray for the best, but prepare for the worst. But you always want to keep your mind in a positive, high vibrational way that, you know, most of all, you have confidence that you won't be thrown in situations that you know are not the best for you. But you still always want to be prepared nevertheless. But yeah, here I have it jotted down. So them being genetically spliced, those pigs in the Bible represent artificial people with bad spirits attached to them. The bad spirits attached to these people. And these people representing the artificial beings. Because, right, what I just said, and I didn't realize I was going to have to, you know, I go along with what comes to me from the Spirit. And so, yeah, so the Spirit brings that forth through me to say this. That's why you always have to work on your spiritual strengthening and raising of your spiritual vibrations so that you can protect yourself from bad spirits as well. And bad spirits can come through artificial things such as GMO foods, because GMO foods are not natural. They are not of the earth. They have no seeds. And me speaking of these pigs being genetically spliced, which means that they are not natural of the earth themselves. They don't naturally come from the earth. So anything that's not natural from the earth and they came from the beginning is not beneficial for you. It has no value, whether it be food or so-called people. And so artificial people, being people that don't have a soul and were not here in the beginning. And these pigs represent those artificial people. Because anything that's artificial or has a low throttle or threshold, as in a weak spirit, it is easy for wicked spirits to enter them because they have no spiritual protection. So that's why you want to be careful about what you put in your body as well. Because whatever you put in your mind or your body, whether it's physical food or spiritual food, or food, if you're speaking of things that you listen to, food is a type of energy. So listening to low vibrational things like music, being around low vibrational people that are bad influences, who would influence you to do things that were not appropriate or in your best interest. All of these things can lower your resistance to bad spirits. So these bad spirits wanted to go into the pigs because they knew they would have no resistance, because they knew that pigs are artificial. They're not natural, so it would be easy for them to enter them, as opposed to a natural being that had a higher threshold or a higher spiritual makeup. It's hard for bad spirits to enter a being that has a higher spiritual makeup that provides them natural protection from the source. But anything unnatural, anything not from the beginning, anything that doesn't have that original seed within it that comes from the source, or that light or that truth in them, or that original soul, or that soul period, because the soul is original. A spirit can be false, but the soul is always real. So anything without a soul can easily be entered into, or around, rather, can easily be influenced and manipulated by false spirits or bad and wicked spirits. So that's why they wanted to enter the pigs, because they knew that there would be no resistance, because pigs are not natural beings. And these pigs represent artificial people or soulless people, false spirits. And these false spirits, or these wicked spirits, asked Jesus, because they were always wondering, because there are other times in the Bible where Jesus came around or somewhere where someone was possessed by a spirit, and if I'm correct, and they wanted to know, they always want to know, is this our appointed time? They feared when Jesus was around, because they were wondering, oh, he's here. And so they knew that at one point the Son of Man will come to destroy them once and for all. So they inquired. They wanted to know. What business do you have with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? The time being their appointed time. And there are the scriptures that say that is this the appoint? Have you come to? Is this our appointed time? I don't know if it's another Bible scripture altogether, or if it's another interpretation of this same scripture here. I don't recall right off the bat, but they wanted to know if it was their appointed time, because they knew there would be a time when the sun, and it's connected to the sun, that these beings are worried that when the sun returns, that he would be coming to destroy them, ridding the earth of them. So that's a key word too, the sun. These false beings are worried about the sun destroying them. And if you notice in our time, what I was saying about not taking this historically or taking this as historical events, but as clues to other things, such as astrology, spells, a book of songs, a book of esotericism with hidden meanings behind the words and the figures. Like the 12 apostles not really being 12 actual people, but representing the astrological chart or wheel, the 12 signs, astrological signs, such as Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Taurus, the 12 signs. So those 12 apostles not actually being 12 actual historical people, but representing the astrological chart or the astrological signs in astrology, as well as the 12 tribes, all representing a period of time when a certain tribe would rule. And if you read anything into astrology, each astrological sign represents a time or season when a certain type of energy would take place, and a certain energy or way of existing would rule that particular season of time. And so, seeing that these represent other things, not actual people, then we want to keep that in mind with this as well, this particular story about the pigs. And so the things that I've just said relating to them worrying about the sun, was it time for the sun to destroy them? And if you notice in our time right now, in the present, the actual sun that we look at in the sky that heats up our earth, there are videos on YouTube, articles, and everything about all these solar flares happening more than has been in a long time or ever been before. It actually getting hotter on the earth. The polar caps melting. The sun getting closer to the earth. It getting hot. Like, it's still spring, and I noticed that I've been noticing that it's been saying that it's been in the 90s in the springtime. We're having summer weather already. So how it's getting hotter on the earth, and Um, many people's concerns with that. And so yeah, this sun that they're concerned about may actually be this sun that heats up our earth. Because the hotter it gets, people that may be of a certain pigment or whatever may be harmed by those sun's rays. Because people of certain pigments that lack a certain amount of melanin can get sun cancer. They can get skin cancer from the sun. I said sun cancer, but I mean same thing, because it's the sun causing skin cancer. Can't stay outside too long. And the hotter it gets, the worse it's going to get for people that lack a certain amount of what we call melanin or carbon within the within, because there's an inner carbon or melanin, and then there's the outer one that dictates the complexion of your skin, but it also serves as a protection from the sun. So the darker your pigment and the deeper your melanin, the more protection you have from the sun. But the least amount of melanin that you have, the less your protection. Okay, it stopped on me, so I had to turn it back on. But let's keep it in mind as well about the least amount of melanin that one possesses, or the less amount that they possess, the more the sun will affect them. And, you know, the sun can cause people to stroke out. People that have been known to die because of being overheated by the sun. So just imagine a being of lesser melanin content having to deal with an earth that's getting hotter and hotter. You know, things to keep in mind. So yeah, these artificial beings that these pigs represent, whether they be these false spirits or whether they be fleshly beings, because there are false beings in the flesh as well. Those who are influenced by these lower entities and that have a low threshold to protect themselves spiritually from them. So they are basically used by these low vibrational demons to do wicked works on earth. And so these would be considered artificial beings too, because this would suggest that they have no soul. Because anything with a soul resists and fights against these types of beings. And they have a stronger threshold of spiritual power to fight such beings. And so these would be akin, or actually be the original and natural beings that have that natural protection from these lower beings. So they wanted to know, was it their appointed time? Because they know they have a short period of time here, and that a Christ figure, this sun figure, would be connected to their demise. So yeah, I wanted to share that the pigs in this story actually represent people. They actually represent people who are influenced by bad spirits. Which means there's an unnatural being walking on earth. The unnatural beings walking this earth. Soulless beings walking this earth with us. And they know they have a short period of time. So they're always worried about the sun. When is the sun going to destroy them? So I will leave it at that. And you can do more research and study yourself on these things if you would like. I can't do it all because I shouldn't do it all. Because it's not for me to do it all. It's for me to throw out the seeds I have to a certain extent. And then anyone that wants to grow with it and learn from it and raise themselves up in their own spiritual journey, then it's out there for them. And if not, then so be it. But yeah, I just wanted to share it. I found it an interesting inspiration and subject that could be discussed amongst those who would like to or do more studying on it. There's several things here that could be looked into about the pigs being artificial and not natural animals first and foremost, and then the comparisons to them and what would be considered artificial people, meaning that everyone here is not natural people. Everybody here is not original people. And they put these things in these books, and you just have to have what even this book says, having discernment. So, having discernment with everything that you do, the things you read, the people you spend your time with, the things you spend your time doing, all deserve discernment so that you won't be wasting your time doing things that don't lift you up or raise you up in your spirit or in your spiritual journey, if you even care to be on one, to know that you are on one. Because everyone doesn't care, and everybody doesn't care to raise themselves up spiritually. Everybody doesn't have that need. And I would go so far as to say that every being here is not even here for them. Some beings here are just for background, and they are just the burdens and the challenges here for you to overcome. They never really had a true spiritual purpose except to raise you up. And after they do that, they no longer have a purpose anyway. So, when you have difficult beings in your life, sometimes you're going to have to realize that all of these beings here are not here forever, and they're not here for a long time. They're just here as the challenges put before you so that you can raise yourself up. This may be some of those artificial beings. They're only here as a challenge for you. And when you raise yourself above the challenge, you face the challenge and you overcome it, then they have no more use. And eventually, it will be, as it says here, their time. It will be their appointed time, because they will have no more use. So think of problematic people like that as well. So with that being said, much light and truth to you, as well as darkness. Because out of the darkness comes all potential and possibility. And you have the potential and possibility to be what you want to be if you are an original being. That makes you a creator. You are a co-creator with the source. And so use everything on your path, whether you deem it good or bad, as a challenge to raise you up, knowing that it's only temporary and that it won't last forever. And then once you get past it, you won't even need it anymore. And then it will fade away from your life, wither away, or diminish in one way or another. And then you'll be on to the next part of your journey. And it may be much better and greater, with less problems and or burdens. Self-care, self-love. Be good to yourself first and foremost. And then you'll know how to be good to others that deserve it, because everyone doesn't deserve for you to be good to them. Everybody doesn't deserve for you to pray for them. Everybody doesn't deserve to be in your life or partake in your energy or your space. So this is where discernment comes in, for you to know the difference. Let it be so and so shall it be. Ashe.